From the KATC Weatherland, here's Rob's forecast.
Welcome back. Well, 93 degrees today, but boy, that humidity down. Our actual heat indices were a little bit below that because our dew points have been down. We got another comfortable days ahead, but unfortunately, the heat is going to stay on the afternoon. But tomorrow morning, it's going to feel great. So let's take a look at this pattern as we look at the water vapor imagery at the 500 millibar level, which is roughly at about 18,000 feet. And this is where we see the upper highs and upper lows, and it meshes well with this water vapor imagery that looks at all the moisture in the atmosphere. Of course, the brown area is very dry, and then the colored areas where you have some moisture, and you do have an upper level low here off of California, spitting some showers out across the Rockies. Elsewhere, much of the country dry in this upper low, producing rainfall across New England after they're still recovering from Lee. But the rest of the country awfully quiet other than the few spotty showers. In fact, quite rare that you don't see any weather systems in Canada all the way down to Mexico across the nation's midsection. So a quiet pattern, dry pattern. Unfortunately, our drought will only worsen. Of course, Power Doppler 3, all is quiet. Tonight, we'll get a drought update come Thursday. The news is pretty bad. As we showed you earlier today, we're in an exceptional drought, which is a level 5 out of 5 on the drought meter. So not much help there, but at least the heat has been improving, and that is the good news. Out in the tropics, well, it's not as busy as it was last week. We have a couple of systems that we're watching, none that are threatening big time at this point. A little bit of a disturbance may develop toward the weekend here off the coast of the Carolinas. Could bring some rain up the east coast. We'll watch that. Shouldn't be anything too big. A system coming off the African coast we do think is going to develop with time, probably this weekend as well, so another 5 days or so, but that's a pretty beefy number for 70% for 7 days out. And then we have Hurricane Nigel out here in the Atlantic and in the middle of the Sargasso Sea, in the middle of the Atlantic. Here's Bermuda right here. Don't have to worry about this system, and it's slowly getting its act together and expected to become a Category 2 storm with time. Right now, 85-mile-per-hour winds. Pressure's not too terribly low at this point, and it's going to do its thing out in the Atlantic curve and then maybe head for the North Sea down the line, but no major threats, direct threats to land. So good news there. And the Gulf of Mexico, to me, looking awfully quiet through mid-October. Maybe we get through another year with nothing going on in the Gulf, and that would be okay with our part of the Gulf anyway. So as we head into this weekend, though, there's that area of low pressure or broad, it might be a hybrid type system. Some of that moisture could work its way up to the north. We'll see how that works out. And there's that system that we pointed out that's coming off the African coastline. That could be the next name system. The next name on cue will be Ophelia. Behind that would be Philippe. So we'll see how it goes. Here in the Gulf, staying high and dry and awfully quiet. Temperatures tonight getting down into the mid to upper 60s in Lafayette, then into the mid 90s. But notice that feels like temperature below the actual temperature because the dew points tomorrow may get down to the 40 degree range, mid 40s. So our humidity bone dry at 20%. So drink extra water and hydrate. It's like living in the desert now. And then temperatures tomorrow night going into Wednesday morning a little bit closer to 70 with a little bit more of an easterly wind coming off the basin and maybe even an east-southeast wind, but back into the mid-90s again on Wednesday. Normal highs this time of year should be about 89, so still temperatures 5 degrees above normal. But tonight, look at this, getting down to 58 perhaps in Oakdale, 59 Ville Platte, upper 50s to the north, lower 60s as we get into the parishes just north of I-10, and low to mid-60s I-10 corridor. We'll stay with 65 here in Lafayette and mid-60s for many areas in the coastal parishes as well. Then tomorrow back into the mid-90s, but as we've been saying, comfortable mid-90s. So by this summer standards, we're not calling it hot. We just call it very warm, but relatively comfortable. So overnight tonight, temperatures getting down to 65 in Lafayette. Crescent harvest moon earlier this evening. Look for it again early tomorrow evening after the sun sets. It'll be awfully pretty out there. It has been the last 2 nights. Another nice day, another warm day with literally non-stop sun out there and very light winds. So if you're working outdoors, it's still pretty darn hot. Mid-90s in the forecast each and every day. And as we go into next week, we're looking at more of the same. Rain chances scant to none, and that 20% on Sunday is awfully optimistic at this point. So got to deal with the dryness, but at least it's not nearly as stinking hot as it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
No triple digits.
No more triple digits. We're done with that. I can safely say.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.